Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the final series in the China upper bracket qualifiers, playoffs things that we're going to be having here. This is going to be a best of three between the Wings Gaming up against Invictus Gaming. I'm Lyrical, joined today by Mikelorus. How are you doing today, good sir? Are you excited for this game?
Oh, for sure. I'm probably a little bit more than you since because you've been casting for so long. So I want everyone to give Lyrical your energy if that's at all possible. But yeah, Wings versus IG. IG used to be a household name, kind of are still, but not exactly playing up to par. At least not what you would expect from a team of the IG's name and caliber. Wings a
Invictus
little bit
Gaming's turn to
inconsistent,
bat.
perhaps, yet they're just on the cusp, just almost there. So people may say, "Oh, IG clean sweep," but Wings definitely a team that you don't want to underestimate, especially in the upcoming months, perhaps.
Well, and this is one of those things that we've been seeing more and more often
Dire
is
team
teams that
pick.
sort of you would expect to be doing incredibly well end up
Invictus
getting picked
Gaming's
off and
turn to bat.
turned around, and they don't end up winning these series just because of sort of innovative plays, really good drafts coming out from other lower teams. And I think that it's becoming more and more situation within Dota now where any team can take a game, can take two games off of any other team, and certainly if you're not careful, if you're not on top of your solid
Invictus
rotations and
Gaming's turn
making
to
sure that you're
pick.
taking every game incredibly seriously,
Dire
you can
team
get,
pick.
picked off there and end up scoring an upset.
It's definitely a good place to be from our casting seats, makes everything more exciting. Definitely not where you want to be if you're a player. For sure, you want to be able to pull out a win when you're expected to pull a win. But aside from that, I do still think that even though, IG not exactly playing the best that they could possibly be playing, still probably favorites. It is also worth noting that King J standing in for Xiaotuji here.
10
King J,
seconds
if I'm
remaining.
told accurate information, is their coach, but also it's King
5
J. So
seconds remaining.
yeah, I don't know how that's going to affect the lanes or positions, if at all. But yeah, for
Reserve
IG, maybe
time.
not running at full capacity. Either way, we have a Night Stalker pick
Dire
for
team
wings, so
bat.
got to get those wings up very quickly.
Absolutely. Oh god, I love me some puns. Hopefully we see a Queen of Pain as well here pretty soon.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, talking about the draft a little bit, we did have the Undying band out as well as the
Dire
Doom,
team
Winter
bat.
Wyvern, and the Slaughter into the first pick, Shadow Fiend, Tusk, Ancient Apparition, and the Night Stalker, followed on up by the lovely Mr. Clockwork, Ember Spirit, and one more band in just a second by Wings. And already you're seeing a couple of the somewhat interesting things. I think the Tusk Ancient Apparition
10
is such
seconds
an
remaining.
interesting combination because you're able to snowball in on top of somebody, throwing out those
5
ice shards, and
seconds
that's kind of a
remaining.
nice little setup. You're able to cup on in that A blast that is able to come on in
Reserve
afterwards, and
time.
just so much burst in such a short period of time. There aren't many heroes that can stand up to it.
Even like the tankier heroes like Night Stalker, who in lane you would expect to be able to survive any sort of aggressive play coming out from enemy supports, can't really do that because Chilling Touch is so ridiculously balanced. Especially Chilling Touch setup with Snowball and Shards. Maybe add Cold Feet, maybe not. You don't even need it, honestly, to kill off pretty much any given hero. That being said, you would expect the Ancient Apparition to try to just, play passively if his goal is to try to get to that level 6 ASAP. Really, that has yet to be determined.
Invictus
He can just go
Gaming's
for the super
turn to
aggro
bat.
strategy, but it looks like Wings are going to be the ones to be playing. It looks like just a little bit more aggressive. You don't pick up a Night Stalker super early if your plan is to sit back and chill. So, getting a Night Stalker on the board, getting a Shadow Fiend on the board, this Night Stalker, whether played as
10
support or an
seconds
offlane,
remaining.
can be one of the components of this like 20-ish minute timing. At
5
least see one
seconds
Shadow Fiends
remaining.
get their mechanisms and or Sanjanyashas if they have someone else going for the mechanisms,
Reserve
then just
time.
going for a very deadly push in the mid game.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you've seen more and more often, particularly in Chinese Dotas, where you sort of originally saw the mechanisms comes
Invictus
out on those Shadow
Gaming's
Fiends,
turn
and
to pick.
it seems to really make sense.
Dire
Now, this is an
team pick.
interesting pickup here. The Templar Assassin, it already somewhat synergizes somewhat well because you do not want to be able to give away all of that minus armor. Of course, you're probably not going to be running into a situation where you would have a Shadow Fiend and a TA, but I think this matchup is probably one of the more interesting ones in terms of being able to outplay your opponent. Shadow Fiend, if he's able to lay the raises effectively while Refraction is down, you're going to be able to really push that TA out of
10
lane. And
seconds
likewise, the
remaining.
side blades are always going to be a problem for Shadow Fiend there. What do you think about that
5
mid matchup?
seconds remaining.
I think the mid matchup is, definitely one where you can outplay, but also both these heroes
Reserve
so
time.
often reliant on stacks that an outplay will have to be very, very convincing if it's actually going to mean, the doom of one of these teams' lanes. Because, Templar Assassin with Sideblade, she can clear off Ancients like nobody's business, go into those hard creeps. Well, Shadow Fiend can't do the Ancients, but he can definitely clear out those hard creeps very easily. So it is going to be the mid lane, perhaps won by not the mid laners, but more so by the supports who find the time to leave whatever they're doing, go into those jungle camps and actually start pulling, just so that Templar Assassin, Shadow Fiend can accelerate and can get to that point where they're very, very aggressive. The wing side, they're going to respond to this TA with a Bane. So far, there's quite a few ways, or there's a way or two for Invictus Gaming to cancel off a grip. But for the most part, this is just another piece of the puzzle that's Wings Gaming in their aggressive draft. Would like to see some sort of combo going along with this Bane. If it's not Ember Spirit, very often we see Slark as sort of a duo, maybe a trio in that kill lane. But Wings definitely setting up for some more dangerous lanes and making up for the weakness of Night Stalker in lane, and that he's not really good at poking, whereas Bane is the poking king.
This is like the fourth Wraith King I feel like I've seen tonight. A hero that's just, I guess, very, very popular in the Chinese scene, as we do also end up seeing the PL immediately in response. So kind of already, I'm liking Wings draft. I'm a little bit confused as to the choice for the Bane over the Dazzle, which is something that you often see as a support to help out that Shadow Fiend if that is what they want to do. They can still go back for the Dazzle if they want to, but it kind of leaves their lanes a little bit wonky where now you've got a Bane supporting a PL, which while it can be really scary, that leaves the Night Stalker solo in the offlane, which isn't necessarily the best. I still think they could do it, but it just seems like that combo together is so strong where you're able to keep the Shadow Fiend alive, stack for him in the early stages, just double down on the minus armor, and with potentially a Diffusal Blade coming up on the PL as well, it just seems like it's such a strong hero. And with no real other defensive supports, I guess the only other problem you run into is the Ancient Apparition being up against it, but you can somewhat still dodge away from those AA blasts often. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Dazzle and the Shadow Fiend combo?
I mean, I don't know the exact stats on it, but I feel like it's a very infrequently seen thing to have fifth bans upon us, and Dazzle is still not involved in some way. Like, yeah, it'll be amazing for Wing, especially with this Phantom Lancer as one of their more recent pickups. Night Stalker may be thrown to the wolves, but hey, we see support Night Stalkers all the time going to the offlane, being underfarmed. It's not the end of the world for that particular hero. You do get some pretty sick combos once you have the Lances, when you have the Doppelgangers, and that Heal Bomb can get really ridiculous. Not to mention being able to sit on the Shadow Fiend, grave him, and just let him go ham. But to a lesser extent, you could even give that to one of the IG heroes. I would expect a little bit more of a farmy-oriented Wraith King here, but if they really, really wanted to pick up a Dazzle, make this Templar Assassin hard to deal with, they can do so if they wanted to. It's just such a versatile hero in that regard that either side would maybe be okay getting it, but maybe neither side really wants it. Batrider instead is going to be banned out, as Invictus Gaming seem to think that Wings Night Stalker are going to be played as support, and I think that's a pretty good read so far. They definitely have more than enough manpower to kill off this Tusk, who might be going to that offlane.
Yeah, I think also if you keep in mind the Batrider there, I don't know if Wings would have wanted to go for it, although it does fit with the sort of theme of them having Wings and a Batrider. All right, I'm done. But being able to come on in there and take out the stacks, it makes that jungle a little bit more crowded, I feel like, where all of a sudden your Shadow Fiend and your Batrider are both going to want the same kind of stack. So maybe looking for somebody that's a little bit less farm-centric at this point. We'll see what that ends up being. We do have another ban here for the Dire. If they wanted to, I don't feel like their draft is missing a ton. The only thing that really is missing would be another source of push outside of the TA, because they don't really have a ton there. I mean, Wraith King can hit away at a tower with the best of them, but it's not really super effective. I don't know if they necessarily need it either. But they do end up banning out the Witch Doctor, not wanting to give them that early fighting lineup as well as the sustainability. And we'll see what they end up going. Again, the big problem that I end up seeing late game is how is this Wraith King going to be able to deal with the PL?
Yeah, I mean, Phantom Lancer as a response to Wraith King is one of the big weaknesses of Wraith King as a hero, in that he is maybe not completely hard countered by some heroes, but there are heroes that you don't really want to be going up against as a Wraith King, unless this Wraith King gets just nuts out of control farm, fight himself with like a Mjolnir, Sulcurass, something along those lines, then this Phantom Lancer is going to give him trouble down the line. IG, though, can they grab a Broodmother, going to shove this Tusk, or I would assume, over to that support role? And then, well, try to just deal with Wings in the swarm them type fashion. Wings don't really have the best heroes at dealing with the Broodmother until they grab a Tidehunter. Okay, here's a little bit more of an older response to the Broodmother that we don't really see all that often, because we never see Tidehunter all that often. The Tide versus Broodmother matchup is one that favors the Tidehunter up until level 7 or so, then it starts getting a little bit better for the Brood.
Well, what an interesting draft right there. They really had to go for something like the Tidehunter there because they didn't have any answers. I mean, Night Stalker single target, Bane single target, Shadow Fiend great for raises, but you're not going to want to move him out of the mid lane, and PL as well doesn't really have great responses. So I'm expecting to see a lot of movement in the early stages of this game, trying to get that lane perfectly good for Wings at this point. And time will tell. I think late game Wings takes this. If we end up seeing some really early pushes there, effective team fights coming out from IG, I think that they can likewise take it in the early stages. But if this game goes late, the Diffusal Blade is up on PL, that's going to spell trouble for IG.
Split push power of IG, though, is certainly very strong. It is going to be present whenever you have a Broodmother. That being said, assuming the Templar Assassin doesn't get completely crushed early on, her assassination power, when combined with really any other one given hero from IG, is just off the charts. And Wings just may find themselves, if they get a little bit behind early on, in a position where they're just constantly going to be losing ground, towers are going to be steadily dropping, and then they're going to be jammed up in their base. And you can never really count out a team that has a Tidehunter and a Requiem. I mean, those are definitely tools that can win you fights no matter how far behind you are. But that being said, Wings definitely do need to be at least at parity in this mid-game phase. If they're behind, then things may just look to be really, really ugly for them.
Well, time will certainly tell in terms of what we see here. We are going to have the Broodmother laying down a web here. Is this going to be a mid-Brood? There's no way. This is definitely going to be a TA in the mid. I don't see any other way to... I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because they do end up laying down this web here up on the top rune spot. I guess this is just to maybe allow her to rune control from her lane up top.
I think it's just to mess with the Tidehunter's head right now. Like, you see the web in this area, you're assuming the Broodmother is going to be somewhere in between top and mid lane, and bottom lane is definitely not there. So right now, that's pretty much IG saying, yes, your Broodmother matchup is up towards top, or up over in the mid lane. Come and respond accordingly. And now Luo is going to slide himself all the way down to the bottom lane, because this web is actually just not doing anything for him right now. But spin web doesn't really have that long of a cooldown. You can definitely set up a different network elsewhere, and it seems like Wings, well, they're going to get the Tidehunter matchup, quote-unquote, versus the Broodmother as planned, but right now on the bottom lane, it seems like this hasn't really worked out that well. I mean, we got sentries here, now they see another web, so... Yeah, I mean, I like the attempt here from Luo, but unfortunately this web not going to do too much.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, well, getting ready to go on into this one. Looks like, at least for the time being, PL and the Bane up against the Broodmother. Bottom, we do have a little bit of an engagement here as Ferrari 430 playing on that TA. Always a dangerous matchup against the Shadow Fiend. It does also have another possibility. They're actually trading a lot of hits right here. This is pretty scary.
Maybe a little bit scarier for Ferrari, although, well, there's now raises, and there's also a Night Stalker who's heavily on the roam. Doesn't have boots first or anything like that, so definitely is a delicate situation over in mid, especially for this SF who is refusing to eat tangos, is on a hunger strike or something. I'm not really sure why he's voluntarily staying at this low HP, probably trying to draw the Templar Assassin in as best he can, but it doesn't seem like that's really going to be that much of a success. We do have an aggressive tri-lane going up against this Tidehunter, and this is actually a really, really great lane for Wings. Like, so disgustingly great. They really don't have any way... Oh, bottom?
I don't think that they find it as close, but... Yeah, they don't...
fine.
Yeah, it looks okay. Up top lane, you think that this is a pretty good lane here for Wings?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is not a lane where they could actually kill off this Tide, even with Chilling Touch. Assuming Tidehunter just doesn't get every single creep denied away from him, he's going to be getting levels guaranteed. And for that, in and of itself, that's good enough for the Wings Tidehunter. But for also to be going up against two melee heroes with Anchor Smash at the ready, like, there's not much damage that can be done to this Tide. And it seems like IG, well, they're going to secure the rune right now, but we have ourselves some kind of awkward roles here. I thought Chuan was going to be playing the carry, but it seems like they just want to get this Wraith King as a support. Chuan playing his usual support role for King J's offlane Tusk. They are going to have some pretty awkwardly farmed core heroes in the mid-game IG.
Yeah, this puts so much pressure on Ferrari right now, and while he certainly can be capable of, living up to the task, it does seem like it might be a bit much. And the question I have is, what is the support Wraith King really going to give you later stages? I guess the big thing is that it means they don't have to rely upon him as their only source of damage later against the PL. That's probably what this is about, is that they realize, you know what, against this PL, we're not going to be able to do as much as we want, as we do actually see Innocence in a little bit of trouble here, caught in with the shards. I don't know if they have enough to be able to take him on out. We do have a little bit of damage there. There's the Void down on top of Chuan, and he's just going to back on out now. So if you think about it, like, the PL is such a hard counter that now you don't have to worry about the fact that you're countered out as the Wraith King. You can just build on into a support items, and if you get picked off, that's just a lot of time that the PL ended up focusing you instead of the TA.
Bottom lane, they're constantly trying to go for Luo. There are sentries galore here for the Dire side. Unfortunately, Nightmare does give a couple frames of invulnerability, and it got absorbed. The Spirit Lance got absorbed, so awkward timings here for Wings, but Luo's level 4, he's doing just fine up towards top lane. King J in a little bit of trouble, does have the Snowball, and does have Chuan right next to him. However, this Wraith King only level 2, can't really do too much except for stun, and stunning up a Tidehunter, that's not really going to stick. So it is going to be Wings really just manhandling up towards top, even gonna rotate in Shadows. Nothing else on his name there. King J now in a little bit of trouble. Invisible Snowball, there it is, going to pop, and he's on the run. Lance gonna fly. There is no Gush here on the Tidehunter, so it looks like rotation out from the Phantom Lancer, not really gonna do too much, unless, okay, Tidehunter gonna rotate back down towards bottom lane. They are gonna get the Tide.
Oh, mid lane, they're going to run on in here on top of this Shadow Fiend, and that's going to be first blood. Just chased him down with the Psyblades and everything else. We do have the Bane in the area now. Going to try and get the Nightmare down, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get anybody in here in time to turn this back around. Nightmare taken over back by the Bane. Does have another... No, they're not going to be able to get this. With the Wraith King rotating in, there's no way to get that kill, but nice first blood.
Thanks.
Sure, Ferrari... I mean, Templar Assassin, not a hero you want to give first blood to. Ferrari, not a player you want to give first blood to. And taking a quick look at the Wings jungle, I was talking a little bit about the stacks before. Well, there are no stacks here for the Wings side. I guess, to be fair, there's no stacks for the IG side either. So what you see is what you get over in this mid lane. And Ferrari getting a little bit now ahead of this SF. Maybe having to deal with a couple heroes as it is nighttime. First nighttime here for the Wings side. But they know that Ferrari is going to be the first target here for Wings. So there comes Shin Chuan and King J accordingly. Here comes Snowball back in onto the Shadow Fiend right now. 3 heroes in. Wraithfire Blast plus charge the trap. And Ferrari's just going to work him down. Another kill for this mid lane. Ice is kind of going to be there, but there's only so much that Bane can do up against so many heroes. A great retaliation kill for IG, and it's at the perfect time as well. If you keep the Night Stalker out of the picture during the nighttime phase, what the hell does he do? He's kind of useless, only being level 2.
And they keep on roaming around here as well. Like, you take a look at the Tidehunter, he moves on down to the bottom lane. Immediately, they send the Broodmother up to the top lane. It looks like consistently IG is trying to find the matchup that they want, and they're not really sacrificing anything to get it any other way. Ferrari is still top of the net worth, 2,800 currently, about now 1,000 gold ahead of the next highest, which is going to be this PL. And while PL, as you get to the later stages of the game, is going to be able to, surround and engulf up a TA, and she can't really fight against it as well. If you're ahead, you're just going to be able to burst through him, and doesn't really have enough to be able to do it. Chuan taking a good amount of damage here. As we do end up getting the Ravage pop for this one, he's going to be able to finish him off as well with the Anchor Smash at the end. All top lane, just a little bit more action going on. As there's a lot of potential for kills all across this map. First Ravage used for a solo kill. I think that's worth it.
Oh, for sure it's worth it. Even though it's, I guess we could call it a support Wraith King, you don't really want to be committing too much for him. This is just the testament to the power, early game power, of a Tidehunter who hasn't really been stopped at all. It's 6 minutes in, only 6 minutes in, he has Arcane Boots, which is already pretty insane. Also being level 7 doesn't exactly hurt. With now the point up in Gush, he can go in for a dive on Super, especially now with Innocence rotating in, and there's not much that the Ancient Apparition can really do about this. Maybe some heroes rotating in, King J especially the most likely hero to do so, but this Tidehunter can, if not solo kill, manhandle whoever comes into this bottom lane with ease. And maybe they're committing this Night Stalker a little bit too much, kind of leaving Shadows up towards top lane to the Wolves, because King J and Luo certainly looking like they want to go for a dive on this PL, but is that even possible? Here comes the Night Stalker. They do see Ice as well as getting just worked down by Spiderlings. Here comes Innocence teleporting in. Level 2 Void. Shard's gonna fly. Ice does get the Brain Sap in, so he's not gonna die just yet, but the Spiderlings might be able to take him out. It looks like they should be able to. Snowball, in the meantime, is going to be bring King J over to the tower. That's not where you want to be. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Chuan does end up securing that kill. They do see Luo, but the dust is fading. That should just about be it, as IG are slowly rotating more heroes up to the top lane. It looks like they may want to continue this fight, but there's probably not going to be a fight available up here.
It looks like they're just going to be able to maybe take this tower, like cutting the creep wave. It's all going to be pushed on forward, and you were able to force a fight. this is the power of Broodmother. You do end up getting a relatively even trade, the Tusk for the Bane a little bit more into the favor of Wings, but at the end of the day, you're also going to lose your safe lane tower. Bottom lane, I don't think that they can really find a kill on this Tusk at this point, at least without Ravage on up on this Tidehunter. I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation because, you know, you think about Tidehunter and the way he functions in this game very much to be able to deal with the Broodmother in lane, but also he's going to bring a huge teamfight component with the Ravages, and I think if you combo that up with the Shadow Fiend being able to pick on up a mechanism, there's definitely a situation here where Wings are going to be difficult to deal with their teamfight potential and just early group up.
You either do that, or you get the Tidehunter a mechanism. He has a ring that doesn't really indicate that much, but it's definitely a possible build, a pretty likely build, in fact, and get the Shadow Fiend, something along the lines of S&Y, or if they really want to play aggressively, grab them the Shadow Blade. Oh, they're going to find Luo. He's dusted, but he's also on the run. Gush finally going to land. They do have a Ravage, will deploy it, and that should be enough to kill off Luo, although my frames are going to hell. It seems like Broodmother is going to fall. A couple of Spiderlings also dying in the midst of that. Luo, yeah, took down the tower, I suppose, but certainly is not going to be completely safe up against the Wings draft, especially once Bane gets level 6. Granted, a little bit further away than Ice would really like, but Broodmother definitely has to be careful here.
I mean, it's all well and good being able to find those kills. You found one earlier on the one of the other heroes down the bottom lane, the Wraith King, and then also being able to pick on off the Broodmother. The key thing, though, TA still doing exactly what she pleases, is going to be able to take on out those Ancients, also does have a double stack now on this hard camp, and you're starting to build on towards either that Blink Dagger or the Desolator, depending upon which build you want to go for, and either way you slice it, this TA is going to be a problem to deal with in lane. Currently 1,300 net worth ahead of the Shadow Fiend and Rising. Shadow Fiend's able to take on out these camps, but as is the TA, and I just don't know. It's feeling more and more like she's just going to be able to blow heroes up in this game. And how do you deal with that? I mean, you've got Ravage, great, a good amount of damage. You need to get more farm in this PL because otherwise he's just going to get ripped apart.
I think it's going to be, Ferrari having to get those blow-up heroes type strategies to work. Oh, super, that's not where you want to be. Nightmare Void Raise, easy kill, easy life in the mid lane. Shadow Fiend going to chalk up another one for himself. It's really, Ferrari, he can do everything, but the rest of his team, they're not really in a great position to do so. Broodmother probably not going to join the fights, just apparently does not want to do so on the hero. Everyone else, I mean, Chuan and King J, both like half cores. I don't even really know who's core, who we can even say is core in this position, since they're both trading farm pretty evenly with one another. So a very likely scenario that we might see is Wings just, using the Ravage, using the Requiem, cleaning up everyone on IG, maybe Ferrari getting a kill or two, but the rest of IG not really being able to do too much to help out their Templar Assassin. It's really all her, unless they get a little bit more in the way of kills and towers for themselves. And it seems like they're going to start on this bottom lane, but up against this Phantom Lancer already starting to chip in with these Lances, Tidehunter who can potentially teleport in. Ravage up in 30 seconds. Wings can defend this if they really wanted to, and it seems like they will not teleport anyone in. They'll just walk everyone in. Innocence and Ice both going to make their arrival. Tower dropping lower and lower. Fortification has already been used. Shadows has another Lance right now. TP coming in. It is the Tidehunter. Does not have to Ravage just yet. King J, though, already taking a lot of damage. Will snowball himself. That's a new Nightmare Ferrari, but here comes the Shadow Fiend. He's going to not pop the Requiem just yet because he has double damage. He's just going to work down the Tusk. Then is going to pick off the Templar Assassin. As Wings, yes, do lose their tower, but it is denied. And they also get 2 extra kills, one of them being on Templar Assassin. That is not the trade that IG really wanted to make.
God, 1,400 net worth swing as well as 1,300 experience. You are losing towers up in this top lane as Brood is able to apply some pressure, but still being able to take out that TA is so huge right now. A-Blast is going to come in. No real follow-up is going to mean that they aren't going to be able to do a whole heck of a lot here. But honestly, I just don't know. You really are relying a lot upon your TA to be able to carry you in this game, and being able to even just get 1 kill there, it felt like there's maybe a chance for TA to jump out to the side, but blinked on over to try and fight that one, and just good reactions by the Bane to be able to Nightmare him down. And now we're looking at a position where I feel like Wings are starting to be able to take a lead. 1,000 gold as well as about 3,000 experience.
They even got the Blink Dagger on the Tidehunter. It's definitely not bad. Oh, Chuan, though, is going to get caught. He does have mana enough to reincarnate, so he's not going to die. Well, maybe he won't even lose his reincarnation. Well, there's one. And Luo is in the area, was spotted by a Sentry Ward. Chuan now going to get gripped up. Chuan is going to break very easily. And that is going to be that. Although Bane is going to get assassinated, Ferrari does pick him off. 1 right click, easy game there. They do still see Luo, but seems like that Lance not quite going to connect. And this Phantom Lancer dropping fairly low, although will be healed up in the end. Seems like everyone else is going to be just fine. Ferrari, though, is going to get hit with the Gush. Ravage is there as well. He blinked out, it seems. unless Perfect World
Refraction
servers are
too
lying to me.
good.
It seems like that is exactly what happened. King J now going to come in from the side. Walrus Punch is there, plus Snowball onto Faith, but this is a Tidehunter we're talking about. He takes pretty much no damage from that. As Phantom Lancer does disengage Faith. Running low on mana, but he's still charging forward. Now does have a Gush. They just need a Void or a Gush or something to land on someone if they're going to take this fight, but the Sentry Ward position is not really cooperating for them, especially when Shadow is taking so much damage. Ferrari not going to go in for the assassination play. It seems like everyone else will back off.
They do have an Ice Blast up on Ancient Apparition. This might get thrown out in a second or two to be able to take on out that PL if they wanted to go for it, but it looks like at least for the time being, they're saving it, hoping to be able to catch somebody, and probably a good idea considering there are a lot of sentry wards around this area. They would have been able to see it coming and just would have been able to dodge it. So keeping this up at least for the time being. They do have it for another 40 seconds if they want. Ice moving very, very far forward. This is going to be an Ice Blast on top of almost absolutely everybody. They don't quite be able to take on out the Tidehunter, though it looks like Ancient Apparition kills off the Bane, but Shadow Fiend kills off the Tusk. Now Ferrari 430 is in a little bit of trouble. Stun coming out from Chuan is going to be able to get taken out there, and look at the damage that's coming out from Wings. They have everything that they could want. It looks like the tier 1 is going to fall. Worth noting, Brood is doing Brood things up in the top lanes, and Shadow Fiend taking out the mid tier 1 tower. So maybe we're going to end up seeing the Brood being able to apply a little bit of pressure to the tier 3, but it does feel like Wings is going to be able to come back in time to deal with this.
Just need the Shadow Fiend or the Tidehunter, and then Broodmother's pushing is pretty much going to be stopped to nil. I would suggest Luo buys an item with the 4,300 gold that he has. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't really even matter what item it's going to be. It's just going to be that Radiance, it seems. Luo is going to go deep in the item pool right now. This is a very interesting way to progress. I mean, Radiance on Broodmother, not exactly a mainstay. You can definitely do a lot of different things with the Broodmother build. It does increase her split push by quite a bit, gives her a, I guess, pseudo answer to the Phantom Lance. I'm not really sure if you can make that argument, but this is Luo spending a lot of money for a relic that's not even going to be that super quick. I mean, it's a pretty decent timing for a Broodmother, but I feel like given how the rest of these fights have been going, Broodmother really needs to go strong in the pushing, really needs to start the pushing hard, and harder than a Radiance can allow. Chuan is on the bottom lane. He's going to get jumped with a grip, and he has no reincarnation. He's going to fall to 2 raises, and this tower may also die if Wings really want to push their advantage here.
Yeah, they're going to back on out, though. They don't want to end up overstaying their welcome too much longer. Not great vision across the rest of the map in terms of being able to see people, and it's always a little bit scary there as the Shadow Fiend does move a little bit further forward. The Ice Shards are going to persuade him to go away. Look at all the spiders up in the top lane. You know, I think those are one of those moments where you maybe even potentially blow a Ravage on it if you end up spotting it out, but it will be a little bit difficult to see that one. So, in terms of the Tidehunter here also, I'm taking a look at him. He currently has a Blink Dagger as well as a Mechanism finished off. So I think that for the Brood, the Radiance is actually pretty good to be able to disrupt that Blink. He's not going to be able to get the Ravages that he wants. And, you know, there aren't a ton of other heroes here that are necessarily going to be picking up a Blink Dagger. Occasionally you see the Shadow Fiend take it, but I don't think this is really going to be a Blink Dagger Shadow Fiend game. He is going to be going pretty quickly into that Sange and Yasha. Doesn't need to pick on up the Mechanism because the Tidehunter's already gotten it, and he can just go straight on into damage.
I was going to make the argument earlier that this Tidehunter doesn't even need to get a Blink Dagger first, necessarily. Maybe doesn't even have to get a Blink Dagger until much, much later, simply because IG with their, I guess we could call them core heroes, like Wraith King, Broodmother, Tusk, they're all melee. Templar Assassin, not melee necessarily, but so close enough. It is pretty much likely to see the fact that a Wings Tidehunter not needing to blink into the middle of everything simply because IG are going to be coming to Wings, in which case Ravage as a response tool is definitely possible. So, I mean, yeah, the Radiance does do that, and there's a lot of potential value in being able to jam up the Tidehunter's combo. That being said, if the Tidehunter wants to land a Ravage, he's probably going to land a Ravage. Oh, he's probably going to go for super first, though. Grip and Soul Gush was used. Anchor Smash available. Won't even be needed as Chuan does come in, trying to go for Ice. Blink in from Ferrari. Ice is going to get mech'd up. Nightmare and Brain Sap, although he's still going to fall. Nightmare gets pulled off by Faith. Spiderling coming in from behind. Shadow Fiend has a double damage rune here. They have to respect that. And Tidehunter, well, a little bit short of his Ravage, now does have his as well. Blink, Ravage, gonna catch 2. Chuan is in a lot of trouble. King J gonna die first, however. That's gonna be an easy 2 kill as Chuan, yeah, is gonna respawn, but into a whole mess of heroes. He's gonna fall as well as Wings trade a Bane for 3 and Reincarnation. And Luo, I mean, his split push is starting to kick into gear, but he's not exactly where he wants to be. Whenever you have a fight like that, you want to be actively taking down tier 3s.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Huge turnaround here for Wings. They're currently sitting 6-13 in terms of kills, but the bigger story is that they're really winning each of these teams fights convincingly, and that's the problem with the Broodmothers. That if you do end up going on into, a very split push centric build, if you group up together as Wings, particularly with that strong team fight combo, the Ravage into just about anything, you're gonna run into situations where you can't fight against that. And the thing I'm really waiting for, honestly, and I wouldn't hate it on the Shadow Fiend, would be something like an early Blink Dagger if they wanted to try and fight, because then you can go like Blink Ravage into Blink Requiem of Souls, and all of a sudden whoever you're on top of is just going to get ripped apart. But maybe doesn't even need it, possibly just wants to go right on into those right clicks builds. But regardless, they're in a really comfortable spot now. Shadow Fiend, top of the net worth, 8,600. Does have the Aegis on top of him as well, and the Boots of Travel are going to be the next item for this PL. Is starting to get a little bit stronger now that he's picked on up the drums also.
It is worth noting, though, that Shadows, the Phantom Lancer for Wings, is not exactly where Phantom Lancer wants to be, on the bottom of the totem pole as far as his net worth is concerned versus the other cores of the game. Does have Travels, just have drums, so he is moving very quickly, but this is a situation that can be punished. Like, we very easily can see a Tide Enter early on just getting utterly smashed, going up against a bad matchup or something like that, in which case Wings would be just so far behind having underfarmed Phantom Lancer, no Tide Enter to kind of cover that weakness. But the fact that Tide Enter got such an easy early game means that Shadows now has that much more time and that much more power behind him, so that he can make these very aggressive split pushing plays, and will do so almost with impunity. He's not, obviously completely safe. Snowball is going to run forward, but Doppelgang is going to dodge that very easily. Ferrari's still thinking about coming in. Sonic Trap's going to be deployed, but Shadow's just going to piece on out of there. Take the meld hit for his troubles, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's going to end up following him on back over there to base. Haven't quite committed anything here in the mid lane super significantly. Like, in terms of towers that have been taken down, the top lane really has been ravaged by the Broodmother. But across the board, you're still seeing a pretty comfortable situation for Wings. They really haven't been split all that much, and I don't think that it's really going to be changing a ton. We do end up seeing a whole heck of a lot of spiders here mid, messing around with Innocence a little bit. But they really need to start sort of translating the Broodmother's farm into objectives. And if that doesn't start happening pretty soon, you do definitely fall off on this hero.
Even with the Radiance, which is probably one of the more carry-oriented builds you can go for on the Broodmother, yeah, they're going to have to do something with her really quickly. And I think that probably involves the BKB, like, oh, they're going to jump in. Seems like, Ferrari's going to jump out, in fact, but, oh, Luo got caught by the grip, and he's just going to get worked down by the Shadow Fiend. That's an easy kill for the SF. Unstoppable spree on him. Faith did see shards coming in, doesn't have a Blink Dagger up just yet. He can't necessarily catch this Tusk, but it's an easy pick off, and now they're going to pop Darkness Charge on forward. This is not a tower that IG can defend. This is a tower they have to defend through split push, and that's not in a position to do so. King J now going to get humped in with the Void, with the Gush, and a Brain Staff's going to work him down. Super, again, can do nothing but watch his allies die. Wings should be able to take this tower. I guess Ferrari's going to take down a mid-tower of his own, so I guess that's kind of nice for IG, but again, this is not a push that IG can stop. They cannot fight a heads-up fight, especially since Highlander still has Ravage, and IG know that.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing right now. I mean, you've got Ravage, you've got Requiem. All of these spells are still up. Fiend's Grip has already been expended, but the big ones are the Requiem and the Ravage, and they're ready to push on down tier 3 towers at 20 minutes. Like, this is devastating at this point. Gush on forward as well as the Raise. One more Spirit Lance, and that's going to be a kill, as we do end up seeing this melee barracks falling. And God, Wings are just in such a commanding spot right now. I did not expect them to do this well, but we were talking about it at the beginning of the draft. You have a team here who's been working really hard to try and, get better, and seeing a weakness in their enemies there is going to be the huge Ravage. Requiem of Souls coming out as well. Ferrari 430 is going to end up dropping very low, ends up getting a triple kill right now. Wicked 6 streak on here, the Shadow Fiend. Chuan ends up getting a stun on Innocence. Another couple of kills, but I think that Chuan is going to fall. That's going to be the ulti pop right now. A is still in the base, ends up tossing on at the A blast. Is he going to be able to get any type of kills, though? It does look like Shadow Fiend might end up popping in the end. He does go down, I believe, to the tick damage. Yeah, he's going to go down, but that's just the Aegis, and they're ready to keep on taking these towers. What are you going to do?
As Super, you don't mess the Shadow Fiend. That's step 1, of course. So it seems like the damage not quite enough, so the Shadow Fiend has to back on off, but still it's a, Aegis and 1 for 4 trade. That in of itself is fantastic for Wings. They also take the Raxes, they also keep the Phantom Lancer alive, should have his Diffusal Blade, yes, completed, or almost completed on the Courier. It's pretty much up on this Phantom Lancer. This is really, really far behind for IG, and for Broodmother, again, this is not really a position where you want to be. Defensive as a broodmother is the worst spot to be. She can't split push faster than Wings can straight push, and that's just going to be how this broodmother game is going to progress. Wings just coming out of nowhere with this kind of timing strategy I talked about earlier. 20 minutes in, get the mechanism up, in this case, Guardian Greaves, so mechanism on steroids, get the SNY on the Shadow Fiend, make a devastating push. I didn't expect it to work that well, but that was pretty much the game plan for Wings from the beginning.
I think the Tidehunter pick really ended up sealing it for him. Despite the fact that you were expecting the Broodmother, or as expecting the Broodmother to have a bit of a stronger showing, they do end up getting the dust down on top of her, but it's just going to run away from this one. It's still a situation where Tidehunter fits well with their lineup also in terms of what they were trying to accomplish, and worth noting that the Shadow Fiend is picking on up a Scotty right now, having it brought on out to him, and he is just a monster at this point. So I think you group back up together one more time if you wanted to. Wait before Ravage is back up. Worth noting also, Shiva's Guard is going to be the item picked up for the Tidehunter. Still a whittle ways away from being able to finish that off, but you know, this is 3 cores that are 10k net worth right now on the Dire, and I don't really see them stopping in terms of their farming abilities anytime soon.
Oh no, they know where Luo is because he's not turning off his Radiance. Seems like they, well, no, kind of where he is, not exactly where he is. Gem is on the Courier, is going to be narrowly dodging the Spider, and it's going to be picked up by Innocence. There is no Aghanim Scepter yet on Night Stalker. He did die in that last engagement, so it's not a truckload of gold on him, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be more gold incoming, as first of all, top lane Tier 1. That's a very easy tower destruction here for the Wing side. They should just go straight into the Tier 2s as well. Luo, he can cut the wave, but there's already a creep wave in transit, not to mention the one that's already there. So Wings with the straight push, they can feasibly take a second set of racks here, and you know, cutting the creep wave with the Broodmother, it's nice, but it's not going to stop this cataclysmic push coming in from Wings. Even not having the Shiva's Guard, not having the Aghanims, it doesn't even matter since they have a Shadow Fiend who just can't be killed, and a Tidehunter who's sitting at 26 armor. So
yeah, this is ridiculous.
Good luck, IG.
I mean, they have a whole nother set of items on top of them, considering how the blast push ended up going, and they have Ravage back up again, they got Requiem back up again, full souls on Shadow Fiend. Everybody's ready to go. You can't fight against this. They're just going to have to be run away from them, and the only hope they can possibly have is maybe the Tidehunter ends up whiffing a Ravage, but this is going to end up being a Fiend script down on top of somebody. I do believe A-Blast going to be able to connect in the end. That's Shadow Fiend dropping a little bit low, but there's the Ravage coming on out. Nice BKB by Ferrari. He's going to be able to turn this one back around a little bit, but honestly, I don't think it's going to end up being enough. Still nobody from Wings has fallen. The jump on forward, Tidehunter trying to maybe find another potential kill here, but GG ends up getting called. King J is going to be the one to call it, and we're going to move on in just a second. IG getting taken out by a very convincing show by Wings, about 1750 net worth lead in the end, and it's just really solid showing by Wings.
For IG, it kind of seems like they were stumbling on what they actually wanted to do. I do think you were pretty much correct in that assessment of the Wraith King's position, but at the same time, Wraith King was like kind of support, kind of getting some farm on the safe lane. At the same time, Tusk was awkwardly in the middle, and when you have 2 heroes like Wraith King and Tusk, you want them to commit into one role. You don't want them to be waffling in between the 2 of them. So it feels like no one but the Templar Assassin was really doing anything. So for IG, I think they just need a clearer game plan. Wings had their game plan, they executed it to a T, and look at this, 25-minute victory.
Well, we'll be right back in just a second with Game 2 of IG versus Wings. Once again, the loser of this one's going to move on down to the lower bracket. The winner ends up going to the upper bracket for that coveted spot at the Star Ladder Finals. We will be back in just a second or two, once again at Lyrical Dota and at Mikelorus. You can find it at the top of the broadcast. There is a little link there to all of our wonderful Twitter and everything else. So see you guys in a few, as we'll be back in just a second.